All right, picture this. The Super Bowl. The clock hits 0, the crowd just erupts, and bam! The champions are showered in this massive storm of confetti. I mean, that's it, right? That's the picture of victory.
It's just this moment of pure chaos and pure joy. And that blizzard of color, it feels totally spontaneous, doesn't it? It feels like it's as much a part of the win as the Lombardi Trophy itself.
But have you ever actually stopped to think about it? Like, where does all that paper even come from? Well, it turns out that colorful explosion is actually a super precisely engineered moment, and it has a surprisingly deep story behind it. So, let's get into it.
So, the secret here, it doesn't actually start with the cannons. It starts with the paper itself. And no, this isn't the kind of stuff you can just, pick up at your local office supply store. Not even close. This is high-performance paper, literally built for one of the biggest stages on Earth.
Believe it or not, for almost 30 years now, one single company, a family-owned company, has been the secret ingredient behind this whole celebration. They're the ones crafting the very paper that rains down on the champions.
They make something you could basically call victory paper. It's this specialty tissue paper, but it's engineered with a really specific set of rules, all to make sure that championship moment is absolutely perfect. Every single time.
And the level of detail here is it's incredible. Okay, so the paper is custom dyed for both teams that could win. It's got to be fade resistant under those super bright stadium lights. And this is the big one. It has to be bleed resistant so it doesn't stain those multi-million-dollar uniforms. Oh, and it's also flame retardant for safety. Yeah, this is some serious paper.
So who are the masterminds behind this, championship-grade paper? Well, the answer, it might actually surprise you.
It's a company called Seaman Paper. And get this, they're a fourth-generation, family-owned business out of Massachusetts, and they've been around since 1946. I mean, just think about that contrast for a second. One of the biggest, most corporate spectacles in America relies on a small-town family company.
So for the Super Bowl, right, they provide about 800 pounds of this stuff, and that sounds like a ton, doesn't it? I mean, it's definitely enough to create that huge visual storm we all see on TV.
But wait for it, that 800 pounds, it's a tiny, tiny fraction of what they actually produce. Every single day, their mills turn out 200,000 pounds of paper. 200,000. All of a sudden, the Super Bowl confetti starts to look like a really cool but really small side hustle for them.
And their sort of hidden genius, it doesn't stop there. They make the paper for Disney parades, for Taylor Swift concerts. They've done stuff for the World Series and the Academy Awards. And maybe the most surprising one of all, you know those little white paper flags that stick out of the top of Hershey's Kisses? Yeah, that's them too. They are quietly behind so many of these iconic paper moments.
But as cool as all that is, the confetti and the candy wrappers, that's not their main mission, not at all. Their real work, what they're truly focused on, is something way, way bigger.
Yeah, this statement right here is pretty much their whole mission. It's the signal of their real focus. Moving past to fun projects and trying to solve a massive global problem. And that problem is single-use plastic. So their core business, what they do day in and day out, is create these really innovative, sustainable paper alternatives to everyday plastic stuff. So instead of those plastic poly bags for shipping, they're making transparent paper bags. Instead of plastic wrap for pallets, they're making paper pallet wrap. They are literally, systematically trying to engineer paper to do the exact same job that plastic does.
And look, this isn't just, a new product line for them, it's their entire philosophy. They call it the Soft Steps Forward Initiative, and it's the guide for pretty much everything they do as a company.
Their whole strategy really comes down to 4 key pillars. And this goes way beyond just making products that you can recycle. We're talking about re-engineering their entire process from start to finish to be as sustainable as it can possibly be.
Okay, so what does that actually mean in practice? Well, first, their fiber comes from responsibly managed forests. Second, they're constantly upgrading their equipment to use less fossil fuel. Third, they optimize, recycle, and treat every single drop of water they use. And finally, they do everything they can to minimize landfill waste by reusing and repurposing. It's a full-circle approach, really.
Okay, so how do we tie the fun story about Super Bowl confetti back to this really serious mission of sustainability? Like, why does any of this paper stuff actually matter?
Well, this right here is the main idea. That same incredible, meticulous engineering that goes into making perfect, bleed-proof confetti for a football game, that is the exact same ingenuity that they're now using to try and solve huge environmental challenges. It's the same mindset, just a different problem.
And this has been their whole approach for over 70 years. Being family-owned since way back in 1946 gives them a really long-term way of looking at things. It's probably why they have over 99% customer attention and have managed to build a global supply chain. They just build things to last, and that goes for customer relationships and for the planet.
So we've kind of been on a little journey here, haven't we? We started with this one fleeting moment of celebration, the confetti, and we ended up uncovering this whole story about innovation, family legacy, and a really deep commitment to sustainability. It just goes to show you that sometimes the most simple-looking things can be hiding a much, much bigger story.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, right? The next time you see some confetti, or unwrap a piece of candy, or open up a package, maybe you'll pause for just a second and wonder, what other everyday things out there are hiding a story of real ingenuity and purpose?